You see that I'm cranking out videos every single day now. I was not doing that before I had an executive assistant, okay? So having that freedom in my schedule and this person to take these things off my plate has freed me to do what I need to do and operate in my zone of genius so that I can ultimately generate more revenue for the business. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time life and business coach as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things, but I do it because I'm so passionate about helping you turn your success story into a 6 or even 7-figure brand. And as I think about the topic of today's video, I might even have to change that intro because I'm actually not doing all the things anymore because I've been building a team, yes. And so in today's video, I really want to talk to you about how I built a team from the ground up because it's something that I have honestly been building since the very start of my coaching business. I mean, since before I even quit my job, I had my eye towards building a team. And so where I'm at now, I find that sometimes people get discouraged when they see my journey a bit and kind of where I'm at because they're like, well, I don't have all that, right? Like I don't have people to do this for me or I don't have people to do that for me. So what do I do where I'm at? And what I'm telling you to do is what you should do, right? Have a different mindset about approaching a team and making sure that you're building a team from the very beginning. So this whole, I gotta do it all on my own, like you should let that go from the very, very beginning. So if you're curious how you can build a team from the ground up, you're in luck because we're about to get into that right now. All right, the first thing that I did to build my team from the ground up, I always say this, right? Now, what I'm about to say for my accountants, who are viewing this, I don't mean this literally, okay? Because this is not tax compliant, right? Because I always get accounted, you can't write that off. But figuratively, my first hire in my business that I like to think that I hired was my housekeeper. Now granted, she wasn't literally a hire in my business, but to me, it was for my business. No, I couldn't write her off on my taxes, but I remember when I was working my full-time job, I was newly married, my husband and I were living in this 2-bedroom apartment. We didn't even have that much furniture, but I had gotten into this rhythm because you know how it is, old school mamas, right? They get up at Saturday morning and they teach you and your sister, right, how to clean, and my brother would be taking out the trash and doing stuff in the lawn, and Saturday was cleaning day. And so I was used to that rhythm, especially as a newly married woman, kind of, okay, I need to maintain the house, how do I get this done? But I'm also trying to grow this business. And I was like, man, 4 hours on a Saturday, right? That, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's prime growing my brand time. And so I told my husband, I was like, babe, we got to get a housekeeper because I really want to dedicate that time towards my business. And gratefully, my husband was super supportive from the very beginning. So even though we were newlyweds living in that 2-bedroom apartment, I remember we paid $80 every 2 weeks to have a housekeeper come, and she was really fantastic, and she cleaned that 2-bedroom apartment from top to bottom, and it gave me just enough time that I needed to work on my business on the weekends so that once I was, Monday and I was ready to hit the ground running, I had things together, all the promotions, social media, different things that I was working on for my business was together. So like I said, I've been in this outsourced mindset from the very beginning. I started by getting help at home first. And so I know most of the aspiring coaches who watch my channel are women. And so I get it, oftentimes we are taking the majority of the responsibilities at home. So if you are also building your business, start building your team at home first because it's going to allow you to spend more time in your business, and spending more time in your business is going to allow you to generate more revenue, which is then going to allow you to hire people in your business so that you can have more time at home. So you see how that works? So start by hiring at home first. All right, the second thing that I did in order to build my business from the ground up is I paid others before I paid myself. So most people don't know this, but when I was working my full-time job and I was growing my business on the side, I was actually generating 6 figures in my business on the side while I was working my full-time job. And so I started hiring. It was just outsourced VAs, right? So it wasn't like full-time US-based people, but my business was growing. I was getting a lot of customer service inquiries. I was selling all these digital products and people were emailing me at all times in the day. I lost my password. I bought this digital training from you. I don't know how to access it, whatever. Had all this customer service stuff. And so I decided to hire an overseas virtual assistant to handle a lot of those inquiries. So that was my first hire. And in hiring her, she ended up being so good at graphic design, because at the time I was doing all of my own graphic design myself, that I was like, you know what? You are so good at this graphic design. Instead of doing this customer service stuff, why don't I just pay you to do my graphic design? So I moved her to just handling my graphic design. And then I hired another virtual assistant to handle all the customer service inquiries that she was handling originally. So here I was working my full-time 9-to-5 job, and I had these two overseas virtual assistants, one who was handling my graphic design and the other one who was handling my customer service, inquiries. And they were doing that overnight or while I was at work. And it was great because a lot of this stuff was getting handled, and then I could focus on my 9-to-5 job and then work on my lunch breaks or before work or after work. And that really helped me grow my business. All right, the third thing that I did, and I probably should have mentioned this first because this really allowed me to even get into the mindset of hiring people, but I was very clear on my zone of genius. And so I find that a lot of new and emerging and even some established online coaches really struggle with this because they're not clear on what are the things in your business that truly only you can do. And so oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we are control freaks. We want everything done the way that we do them, and we think that we're the ones that have to do everything. And so for a time, I was somewhat confused on my zone of genius. Like I knew what I was really, really good at, so I wasn't confused on that. But there were some things that I thought I was better at than I really was. One of those things was graphic design, meaning when I saw that this assistant who was helping me with customer service, her designs were like killing my designs, like blowing my stuff out of the water. I was like, wow, I was spending all this time, staying up late at night working on all these graphics, and my stuff isn't even as good as hers, and she's getting it done in like 30 minutes because she's actually a graphic designer. And so over time, I test this out where if I think I'm really good at something, I will pass it off to somebody else just to see how they handle it. And I'm always amazed at how people blow me out of the water, right? People I hire are like way better at things than I am. Something more recently, I'd say in the last 18 months that I've really had my eyes open to was building back-end systems. So, I've always kind of thought like, oh, I'm really good at systems. I'm an ex-engineer, I know I graduated with a marketing degree, but I spent the majority of my time in college pursuing that engineering degree until I lost my scholarship. If you don't know that story, check out one of the videos where I tell that story in depth. But I've always kind of seen myself as like a systems girl. I understand processes. And so I was building a lot of the systems behind the scenes in my business myself. However, one day I hired my operations manager who now handles all of my back-end systems. She writes my standard operating procedures. She handles my hiring. Like she does all of these things. And I am consistently like stunned at how good she is at setting up all of these like systems and making things connect and building all this stuff in the back end. I thought I was like an engineer and I was good at this. Like I'm trash, okay? I am trash at systems compared to her. She is so much better than me. So this is what I'm saying. Get very clear on your zone of genius because there are things that you might think that only you can do in your business. However, when you outsource them, you'll find that people do them a lot better than you. And so getting clear on my zone of genius, which is really around coming up with really leading the vision of my brand, coming up with content, and then communicating. Like that's truly my zone of genius, and those are things that I can't outsource. Like I have to show up and do this. I'm the one that has to come up with, the product ideas, and I really need to be the face of the brand. That's the one thing that no one on my team can do but me. But I'm learning that all that other stuff, there's somebody who can do it a lot better than I can. So get clear on your zone of genius. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. Who is either your first team member that you want to hire, or if you already have team members, who is the next team member that you want to hire? Share in the comments below. All right, the fourth thing that I did to build my team from the ground up is that I outsourced in order, okay? So I kind of talked about this in the beginning, how I originally started with customer service, and then I moved to graphic designer, or really I shifted my customer service person to graphic design, and then I hired another customer service person. But I have grown my business in order. So I've always started with what is the most immediate thing that I need done to free myself in my business so that I can focus on higher, value tasks. And so that, customer service thing, that's like one of the key things you got to get squared away. And so that was the first thing I hired. The next thing was graphic design, because social media, brand visuals, I have an online brand, which is intangible. And so I find that branding, visuals, logos, all of that helps make the intangible more tangible. So it was really important that I had really top-notch graphic design. So that was the next thing that I needed to get done. And then after that, it was having an operations manager who can manage some of those back-end systems. And then after that, it was hiring an executive assistant. And then after that, it was getting instructional design people to help me with managing the actual creation of my programs and making sure that people could understand the content that I was trying to get out to them. And then after that, it was hiring a sales team. So it's really grown from there, but I've always done things in order of my next priority. So there's like all these things that were on my plate. I asked myself, what is the number one thing that if I can get this off my plate, I would be free to focus on higher order things in my business. So originally it was customer service. Then after that, it was graphic design. Then after that, it was operations manager. So you wanna make sure that you're not trying to like hire all at once, but you hire in order based on high priority things in your business. That's ultimately gonna free you up, but you build your team out over time. All right, and the fifth thing that I did to build my team from the ground up, and this is mildly controversial, but I find that it's really important, is that I hired before I could afford it. And so what I mean by that is oftentimes I would make a hire that I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to maintain going forward. So maybe I had the money in the account, I was like, all right, I could hire this person for 3 months, or I could hire this person for 6 months, but I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to extend this long term. Or maybe I would hire somebody and I'd say, okay, I'm gonna bring you on a part-time basis. My goal is to get you on a full-time basis, but I gotta see how this role works. Oftentimes making that investment first, I found that the person, once they were in the role, helped me produce so much revenue because they freed up so much time that the extra revenue that I was generating more than covered their salary going forward. And so I remember even recently I hired my executive assistant. She worked with me part-time for a while and then came on full-time. I was really nervous about hiring her because she is a US-based full-time like salaried person. And I was like, man, am I gonna be able to, sustain and maintain her going forward? But just having her in my business has freed up so much of my time. Like now I'm like, I can't live without her. I'm like, why was I doing all this stuff? I cannot believe I was managing my own calendar and like scheduling my own podcast interview. I was doing all of that stuff myself. Having her to manage all of this has freed me so much to create content. And you guys see it. If you've been on my YouTube channel for a while, you see that I'm cranking out videos every single day now. I was not doing that before I had an executive assistant, okay? So having that freedom in my schedule and this person to take these things off my plate has freed me to do what I need to do and operate in my zone of genius so that I can ultimately generate more revenue for the business, and then extra revenue covers their salary and then some. So trust me, hire before you think you can afford it. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you're gonna love my outsource cheat sheet. So this is truly a cheat sheet with all of the tools, systems, where I find my virtual assistants. If you're curious about all of that information, click the link below to download this cheat sheet for free, which gives you all of my tools and systems that I use to outsource in my business. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. If you loved it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want even more where this came from, make sure that you are subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you want even more and you can't wait till my next video, make sure you are following me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram, where I post every single day and I even share the behind the scenes of my life on my stories. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.